Hey, we are live. How about we let Larry kick us off, CJ? What do you think about that?
Sounds good. Let's roll.
All Things Unexplained. Hosted by Dr. Mounts,
Let's face it, we were always ready to roll without him anyway.
CJ Derringer,
Ain't nobody perfect, right?
and Smitty Neebs.
I've never planned out hardly anything my whole life. I just freeball.
Featuring Cajun Man.
I'm just old nobody. Somebody's looking for somebody.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to All Things Unexplained. I am CJ Derringer here along with my co-host, Dr. Tim Mounts. We're
Hey,
missing Smitty tonight. Hey,
Are we
Smitty.
really?
Well, yeah, we are.
Hey,
We're missing
Smitty.
him physically. He's not here.
That's-
But no, we do send our best to you. Hope you're doing well. We have a very exciting show on All Things Unexplained tonight. We are excited to welcome yet another guest. I love these nights and these days and these mornings, and whenever we're recording that we have guests, I just find it so fascinating to get other people on here and hear a little bit about them and their worlds and what they can share that's unexplained with us, or any digging that they've done to answer the unexplained. So tonight we are lucky enough to have an author with us. She's written some young reader books, some nonfiction books, some fiction books. She's a freelance writer and photographer. She's an expert in self-publishing. She has a plethora of experience with horses. I think the list goes on and on, but I'll let her share a little bit about herself. Please welcome to our show, Donna Campbell Smith.
Hi,
Hello
Donna.
to you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey.
So we are
Oh, I'm so excited.
so lucky to have you. You reside right here in North Carolina with us. Tim and I are in North Carolina as well. Smitty's out there in Mississippi, but again, he's not here tonight, so this is a North Carolina exclusive interview. But it's always fun to get somebody local. So thanks for joining us. So Donna, I was reading a little bit about your background, and it sounds like you started working with horses. Is that correct? That came before all of the writing?
Yes, it did. In Martin County, in the Martin Community College, they started the equine technology program, and I was in that first class.
What
That
does
first year
equine
I started.
technology mean?
Well, it's basically just all things about horses. So we had two programs. One was breeding farm management and training farm management, and I opted for breeding farm management. But I was already in the business with boarding and giving lessons and stuff. Probably if I'd known what I was getting into, I might have been chickened out of the whole thing. It was pretty, but it was pretty amazing
Wonderful.
program.
Did you grow up with horses?
No. I dreamed of having one from the time I was a little girl. So I had, where most people have imaginary playmates, I had an imaginary horse. His name was Leafy because he ate leaves, which horses shouldn't eat leaves. But and I galloped him all over
Oh
the
my goodness, I
neighborhood.
love that. Why do kids
Yep.
do that? They just add E to the end of everything, right? Like my daughter right now, she has a fake puppy that she calls Treaty because it eats treats. Like that's the logic of a child, right?
Right. Yeah, I guess it must be.
That is so fun. We have like a fan of yours chiming in here. Jackie is looking forward to hearing from Donna. That's exciting.
I see Jackie's picture. Hey,
Thanks for
Jackie.
tuning in, Jackie. Love
She's
that.
there.
Wonderful.
So, Donna, when did you first realize you wanted to be a writer?
Oh, I think I was maybe about 12 years old. And I always, in school, I was like one of the weird people who looked forward to term papers and research papers and, anything that you write. I liked it. I always did. And I love to read. We didn't have TV and stuff when I was a kid, so I would hear a lot. I think about it now with my great grandchildren and their devices and gaming and everything. mother would always like telling me, get your nose out of that book if you haven't done your chores and stuff like that. So I think it's just a different form, but same problem, or not a problem, but not to us it wasn't.
I know, now we're telling them, go put your nose in a book, okay, and keep it there for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So, I mean, I was one of the ones under the covers with the flashlight, or climb a tree with a book or whatever. I was always
me too.
reading.
I set up a little Minnie Mouse tent in my bedroom as a kid, and I would go in my tent with a flash, read for hours. I loved to read. I still love to read. I loved reading your book. It was phenomenal. It was really fun.
Thank you.
We'll dive into that in a little bit. But and so writing, Tim, you've done lots of writing as well. When did you know, Tim, that you wanted to be a writer?
Well, I think, my son is 7, and so it's brought back a lot of deja vu for me. I think probably around the time I was 7 years old, because he does a lot of writing. So he writes all these little short stories, comic books he calls them, and graphic novels. And I admit I probably have influenced that to a large degree, perhaps. But growing up, I just consumed everything I could get my hands on. It's like Donna said. We had a TV, but Mama mostly had access to it. It's not like I wanted to watch Dynasty, or Dallas. So it was read the Encyclopedia Britannica, or read the dictionary, or read the comic books. So I discovered comic books at some point, and I think that, and actually something about Donna that really caught my eye when I was reading about you, Donna, was how you used to listen to late night, or maybe it was your mother or grandmother used to listen to late night radio. That's right. And so I had a lot of that as a kid too. Like, I still remember, getting the radio and just slowly turning the dial and fixing the antenna and trying to find ways to boost my antenna, and just being so excited when I could find somebody talking from another part of the country. I just thought it was so exciting. And of course, it was mostly AM at night, in the middle of the night for me. And all those things just really wanted me to express myself in a creative way. I don't think there was much other way to do that back in the day, except through writing. I wasn't necessarily an artist in terms of graphic artist or anything like that, but I just felt like writing was the natural way for it to come out, because I love to read so much.
Me too. Yeah. I love to read, love to write. You said Encyclopedia Britannica. That totally took me back to when my parents got our first set, and I'll never forget it. Just up there, it was so beautiful, right? We had every set of them, and just these hardbound, beautiful encyclopedias that if we wanted to know something, that's where we went. We would take an encyclopedia off the shelf and research it. And now, gosh, we have so much information at our fingertips. It's scary. A waste of time, most of it, really. But
here's a question. Do they still sell encyclopedias?
Oh, I'm sure. They're probably more expensive now, right?
Maybe in used bookstores.
Well, there used to be encyclopedia salesmen. That would go door to door.
Oh, yeah. I bought when my kids were coming up, I bought World Book from the door-to-door salesman.
Yeah, and I think it was quite lucrative too, because everybody needed them. It was like the internet, it was your search engine. Which actually reminds me of a question I saw the other day, and it was a would you rather question. I'll ask both of y'all this. Would you rather never to be able to use search engines again, like Google, or never use smartphone apps again? I had to think about that for a second.
Well, I don't use smartphone apps
so that's
anyway.
Easy with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was easy.
Oh, goodness.
Goodbye to the apps.
I'm still learning.
I would say that the apps that I use
probably
don't bring me any knowledge. So I'd rather have access to knowledge. So I'm going to say I'd get rid of the apps and I would keep the Google search engine.
I like
me
it.
Too.
I concur.
I think the only app I have on my phone that I would search for information is Google. So
there you go.
And Dana Everett Bauer said break a leg.
Hey, Dana.
Yeah, if any of our listeners out there have any
You
questions,
shouldn't say that to an old lady, Dana.
Hey, at least you didn't say break a
me
hip.
it reminds me of the character in your book
True.
who broke her ankle.
Yep.
But yeah, if any of our listeners have any questions for Donna or for either of us, please go ahead and send those our way, and we'll try to address them on the show. That's always something fun for us to do, get some listener involvement. And Donna, before we dive into this new book that you have here, why don't you tell us a little bit about where people can find more information on you, your website and your social media pages? Where can they go to find Donna?
You can just Google Donna Campbell Smith.
Oh,
and find
really?
it. I don't think there's another one out there.
One of a kind.
So my website's DonnaCampbellSmithWrites.com.
Okay.
And I'm on Facebook, and I have a book page and an art page and my general page on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, and I hardly ever look at my Twitter account. So
It's those things that you have to
I
have,
might not
right?
see
You
if
have
somebody
to
goes
have
there to find
those.
it.
You have to have those in order
You have to have
a
time to write and do stuff.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Donna, on your website, I was on it earlier, that picture of you at a lake, is that a lake here in North Carolina?
That is Falls Lake at Beaver Dam State
Oh.
Park at the end of their
Yeah.
little fishing pier. And Jackie took
I
that
love
picture
that
of me.
picture. It's great. Yeah,
I like
it's
that
beautiful.
picture.
And then, of course, there's your business card. I have to share this business card with everybody because I've never
it's
seen
terrific.
anything as wonderful. And I would love, like Tim said earlier, I would love to get one for myself. I'm going to see. Tell me if you could look at this. This is fantastic.
That is so awesome.
I love this so much. Is this something that you did or a friend did for you, or just?
That's, yeah, I drew it. It's a self-portrait. That is me at the beach with the
this
wind
is
in my hair.
fantastic.
My favorite thing
This
to
is
do.
so great. Oh, when I saw this, I said, I'm going to love this woman. I just knew it. Oh, it's so good. Okay, so I have to learn to draw myself, is what you're saying.
Oh, I'm glad. There you go. Yeah. Just
Too
Or let Donna
bad.
draw you.
Yeah. I'll go to the beach and let the wind take over my hair.
There you
Okay,
go.
well, the reason that we have Donna on this today is we found you in a news article about a new book that you wrote. And I've got the book here with me. It's called My Neighbors from the Woods. And
Hold
it
it
is
over,
about,
CJ.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yep, my camera is off. There we go. My Neighbors from the Woods. There you are. Who did the artwork for this one? You
I did
this
that.
as well. Donna, what can't you
I
do?
love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I can't sing. I can't sing. I can't play an instrument. I have no musical ability whatsoever.
That
It's
is
all visual
wonderful.
stuff.
So we on this show at All Things Unexplained, we have interviewed a lot of Bigfoot experts, Bigfoot authors, and when I started reading the book, I didn't realize it was fiction. We've read so many nonfiction Bigfoot stories, so I'm reading it and going, oh my gosh, this is great. Like this is just really, it reads so much like fiction. And Tim goes, yeah, CJ, it's fiction. I'm like, oh, that makes more sense. But every little nuance in this story that you wrote about, Bigfoot experts that we have talked to have shared something similar in terms of people's experiences. So you must have done a lot of research before you wrote this book. Tell me a little bit about that process.
Oh, yes. Well, I wrote this during pandemic shutdown. Yes, I had time to do it. But I have been interested in reading since I got a web TV.
No.
Do you know what that is?
Is that like a smart TV?
Before I had a computer, it was a gizmo you could hook up to your TV and access the
Oh.
internet. I don't know how it worked, but that was my first introduction to the internet. A story that stuck with me, though, was about a woman who had this relationship with this Bigfoot family. I tried to go back and find it, and then I saw there were several similar stories out there on the internet. So that was just one story that kind of stuck with me, though, because I don't know, it seems like most of the people in the Bigfoot world that you hear about, the experts and whatnot, are men. Doesn't seem to be a whole lot of women out there. Not a lot. So I don't know. It just captured my imagination to think that could happen. I'm from northeast North Carolina, which is bear country. And I love going to the refuges, and you can just drive through and see multiple bears most anytime you go to Alligator River Refuge or Pungo. Also, kind of inspiration in the back of my mind for my story was there was a lady that lived in Terrell County named Kay Grayson. They called her the Bear Lady, and she had 1,000 acres of land out there she had inherited from somebody, and she lived out there with no plumbing, no electricity, in a trailer. And she had this amazing relationship with the bears. And I have a 4-hour video that I bought from her of her with those bears. So it kind of seemed like a possibility to me that somebody could have that kind of relationship with Bigfoot. So that's what got me started. But yeah, I started watching a lot of the YouTube Bigfoot channels while I was on shutdown here alone in the woods. And, reading websites and stories. I like the stories. So, and there's some really amazing storytellers out there, too.
Well, I would say you're one of them.
So that was my research, watching YouTube.
Well, it's a fantastic read. I highly recommend everybody pick it up and read it. And I instantly got sucked into your main character. We call her Maggie, right? Her name isn't mentioned too much in the story, a couple of times, but so I was just really sucked into this lady. She lives by herself out in the woods and loves her coffee, gets up and makes her coffee every morning and has her cat and goes out and takes care of the chickens and makes sure the chickens are back in at night. And this recurs a lot in the story, and it just really made me think about how many people actually live this way. There are so many people that are living in North Carolina especially, and they have their chickens and they drink their coffee, and their lives are just sort of a simple everyday, this is what I do. And for her to go out to dinner or to go to a barbecue or grill out or what have you, it was a big thing. Like, oh, okay, I've got to make sure that I wash up, and what am I going to wear? I don't do these things very often. And do you find yourself relating to her and her daily routine?
Well, when you write, you always have a piece of yourself in there. So I do live in the woods, basically. I rent a house on a 200-acre farm that another farmer rents the pasture land and raises cattle. So I get to sit here in my office and watch the cows and the wildlife and stuff. So
Okay,
relate,
so the main
relate. But it's also more than just about her relationship with Bigfoot. It's like her independence and her other relationships with people.
Yes, it was, and I really got sucked in. And I'm not going to give away how it ends, but I was like, oh, I like that. I like the way that it went in the end. So I want people to read it.
She did have another relationship in the book too, right? With a friend named John.
And then she's got a female friend and her husband as well that check in on her every once in a while. Oh, are you doing okay? It's sort of this like, because she felt like, because I'm a woman who lives alone, everybody feels like they have to check in on me and ask if I'm okay all the time. And she gets to a point where she's like, yeah, I'm okay. I've got this. I can handle it. Please let me be. Like, stop. Like, just because I'm a woman out here by myself doesn't mean that I can't do this. I've done it for 30 years, sort of thing. It was great. Really good.
Yeah.
But it has to make you wonder, though, CJ, and to me, maybe Donna can tell us more about this. Do you think that Maggie's, the fact that she did live out in the woods alone as a female, and she only had just a few other relationships, did that lead to the interaction with the Bigfoots? She was out there by herself, just kind of one with nature. And actually, Donna, who it made me think of was that there's only one human that's ever been known to have been accepted into chimpanzee society, and that was Jane Goodall, out alone as a female, and that's who it made me think of it. Like in your Donna, but what do you in your mind? How did you see that? I
had thought of that. That didn't really occur to me, because I think of Jane Goodall as a scientist and an educated person, which makes it different, maybe from Maggie. Maggie wasn't trying to really do research on them, I guess, is what I'm thinking. But I just hadn't even thought of that. But yeah, that's kind of a cool thought.
Yeah. In Maggie's case, it's like they came to her and she was terrified of them, right? As I think most people would be, not knowing what this creature is capable of, or the noises and the smells and all of the things that you talk about in the book could be terrifying. And the Bigfoot do some damage to her property, right? And she goes to this other strong female character in your book, Phoebe, I believe was her name. Phoebe, yes. And so Phoebe lives on her own, very strong female character, and she tells Maggie what she needs to do in order to make the chaos stop. Because Maggie does not want to believe that this is a Bigfoot. She does not want to say the words out loud and be sent to the loony bin that she's got this Bigfoot, on her property. But Phoebe all along is going, that's not a bear. That's not a bear doing that. That's not a bear walking on 2 feet across your path. That's the big man. That's the Bigfoot. So she gives
And, I think that humans just getting more in touch with nature, it can lead to all kinds of discoveries. And so I think it's so plausible the book is, and the interactions. And did either of you see was very recent bipedal great ape news concerning an orangutan in Borneo? Did either of you see this?
Yes, I did see it.
So a very famous picture was taken recently. I'm going to try to put it on the screen, and hopefully both of you can see this. This was an amateur, I'll set the stage, an amateur photographer was crossing thank you, Dana. I hate to interrupt you. Thank you, Dana Everett Bauer. Dana Everett Bauer says, I love this Jane Goodall comparison, Dr. Mills. Thank you. So, very recently, an amateur photographer in Borneo was crossing a snake-infested swamp, right? And it looked like he was just up to his shoulders in lots of danger. And out of nowhere, this happens. I'm going to put the picture on the screen.
I have not
here.
seen this. This is not something that I have seen. Whoa!
I did see that. Yes.
And it is exactly what it looks like. The orangutan extended his hand to help the photographer out of the swamp. It appeared to be legitimately concerned. As far as I know, this was kind of a first.
That's
among
incredible.
Bipedal great apes. And I know, isn't it amazing?
That's really amazing.
It is.
I'd like to ask both of you, because this reminded me of the story too. They asked the photographer, did you let the orangutan help you out of the swamp? What do y'all think the photographer decided to do?
Oh, I don't know.
I
would have too, I think.
Yeah, y'all are so kind-natured. So the photographer actually did not let the orangutan help him out of the water. He had 2 reasons. One, he was concerned for his physical safety. Oh, hey, Connor Flynn, friend of the show, Connor Flynn, just said, hey, y'all. Connor, let us know if you've seen this story about the orangutan helping or trying to help the photographer out of the swamp. So he was, one, concerned for his safety because orangutans are immensely powerful, and I believe this was a female orangutan. And 2, the photographer said that they were only there to observe. They were not there to interact with nature at all. And it reminded me of part of your book, Donna, My Neighbors from the Woods, where, they took something of hers. They took some chickens, but they left her some gifts in their place.
And that's a reoccurring theme that when you start reading Bigfoot stories, you see that.
Yeah.
But crows do that.
Oh, really?
So it's not far-fetched to me. Crows will bring you gifts. Crows have facial recognition. So if you're like feeding or whatever, they know who it is feeding them. And there's stories of them just leaving little shiny things that they'd like to pick up.
Oh,
I know, it makes you think twice about putting a scarecrow up, right? Listener Deborah Brown said they would have let the orangutan help them out.
So,
but I understand what he's saying about not interfering. When I first moved onto the farm, I had horses, so I had a salt block, and I put it in the edge of the woods in camera. You know, I was baiting deer is what I was doing, which was really wrong. But then they opened the farm to a hunting club, so I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I've taught them not to be afraid to come close to the house.
And that was a theme in your book too.
Like
that was a big,
Yep.
that was sort of a challenge for her in your book was, okay, do I leave these offerings and make the Bigfoot feel safe with humans? And that was a challenge that she ran into with her friend John as well, in terms of how should she handle that. So coming full circle to the orangutan, this photographer is only there to observe. Does he want to reach out his hand and make these orangutan feel like they can trust humans, when really we all know there's a lot of very bad humans out there? And maybe they shouldn't be so trusting. That's a tough one. But I still think I would have taken, I mean, that is such a magical moment. I think I would have taken her hand.
Let me put that back up there for everybody that missed that. I'd like to say hey to my childhood friend Scott Bailey. Thanks for tuning in to the show. We're talking to, if you're just tuning in, we're talking to award-winning author of My Neighbors from the Woods, about a lady named Maggie who discovers herself with some Bigfoot neighbors.
So, Donna, there was something you wrote about in your book. This is so fun to talk to an author of a fiction story, because every time I read a book, I'm like, oh, I wonder what they were thinking, or if that's what they meant. So one part of your book, she goes walking with John into the woods, and they are going to go fishing, or maybe they're just walking and they go fishing later, but he finds he finds an arrowhead. And he says, oh, do you find these here often? And she says, oh, you know, when the rains come through and wash them up. So are we thinking that the Bigfoot are leaving those as gifts, that they're finding them and leaving them as gifts? Or is that just more something that, okay, we find arrowheads in this area?
I think that was just part of the scene for the two of them. No, I didn't intend it that way for a Bigfoot to have left there.
Gotcha. See, that's how I interpreted it. See, so you get the reader author thing going. But that's what's so great about reading and writing.
But they left the nuts. Yeah, they left the hickory nuts for.
Oh, so fun! It's like I said, it's so fun to talk to somebody that wrote a book after I've read the book. It's great. So you've now done.
Yeah, for me too.
And I really do recommend. I'm going to show everybody the book one more time. This artwork that you did here yourself is fantastic. I recommend everybody go and grab it. It truly was a very fun read.
Please do. Let's make it a bestseller.
So, Donna, do you enjoy eating Snickers bars as much as your main character does?
Well, I don't eat sweets now, but I've had characters in other books have that one thing, kind of signature thing. So when I do a book signing, I'll have a bowl of mini Snickers for people to take one.
That's fun.
Get their book signed.
That is fun.
Speaking of that, we have a listener question for you, Donna. Listener Dana Everett Bauer says, so are we going to have a sequel to My Friends?
I love that idea.
No, we're not going to have a sequel to that, but I am working on another Bigfoot book that I hope to have done before May, so I can take that to the Bigfoot Festival.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm working on it.
You are a busy lady.
Can you give us any insight on that one?
Yeah.
This is going to be a human Bigfoot relationship, but she's telling it after she's an adult, so it's not a children's book per se, but it's about children.
Okay, gotcha. Now you do write some young reader books.
I've just started it, so I don't even know where it's going yet. That's my writing process. I just start writing without not a whole lot of forethought, and characters just kind of do their thing.
There you go.
Oh, very
I did 2 cozy mysteries, and you can't do that with a cozy mystery. You have to have a plan. So the first one I wrote, I had to start over, but all my other fiction books, I just write and see where it goes.
Now, what's a cozy mystery?
That's one without the blood and gore and stuff. It's just like Murder, She Wrote. That sort of. Yeah.
I loved Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah, me too. I watched the reruns on Antenna TV.
Angela Lansbury is one of my all-time favorite
Yeah.
people.
Yes,
I just have to say so. And I believe the name of her town was Cabot Cove. Is that right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
I need a Murder, She Wrote on trivia night sometime next time I go to my local establishment that has trivia night. So, Donna, I have to propose a theory of mine about Murder, She Wrote.
Okay.
I always thought that Angela Lansbury should be the suspect in some of those crimes, because think about it. Anytime she went to visit somebody, anytime she went to another town, there was always a murder.
Yes.
She was the one common thread between all the murders.
I think Agatha Christie did that with Hercule Poirot? I can't pronounce his name. That series she did. I think in one of them he was the suspect, and you really thought he did it until the end.
Oh yeah, Sergeant. I'm not sure. I believe he was French. Perot.
Mm-hmm.
Deborah Brown says, me too. I think she's agreeing with me that Angela Lansbury should have been a suspect in at least some of those crimes.
Because somebody got murdered everywhere she went.
True. That's bad luck.
Super creepy, right? Even though I love her. I love Angela Lansbury, but super creepy. Better be on her good side.
Like, you don't want her to come to your house.
That's like every time I used to live on the coast here in North Carolina, and you did not want Jim Cantori to show up right before a hurricane, because then you knew your town was the target of that next hurricane. And he showed up in Wilmington for the last one. It was like, no.
Well,
oh God!
I always imagined if Angela Lansbury ever got arrested or threatened with arrest, she would just have Matlock as her defense attorney. So it was pretty much pointless in ever even attempting to charge her with anything.
Tim, I feel like this is the next book idea for you. You should take this and run with it.
Yeah.
Murder, She Wrote, and Committed.
Perfect.
True confessions.
So now, Donna, you had, before we started the show, you mentioned that one of your daughters had purchased you a Bigfoot mask. Here we are in the time of COVID, so masks are very prevalent and popular. Have you always been a huge Bigfoot fan and interested in Bigfoot, or is that sort of a recent development for you?
I've always believed that there was a critter out there, a Bigfoot-like critter, and that came from my daddy. Like we said, he listened to late night on the radio, and he would tell us stuff he had heard, about Bigfoot on there. And I think he got, he read the men's True and a couple of the men's magazines, and there'd be stories in those. But I wrote about this in one of my articles. He talked about a wild man that lived back. He was from upstate New York, is where he grew up and lived all his life till he went in the army. This wild man, and he would have nightmares about wrestling this wild man. And one night he was just moaning and groaning and tossing and turning, and Mama reached over, grabbed him by the shoulder to wake him up, and when he did, he put her in a hammerlock. Because he was wrestling that wild man. So she said, "You go ahead and have your nightmares from now on. I'm not waking you up." But so when I was doing some research, it came, and the Small Town Monsters on YouTube channel, they go back and talk about some of these old stories about wild men and Bigfoot and the hairy man or whatever in different parts of the country, and they had talked about upstate New York. So I was just Googling around and came across this story, a newspaper clipping that was from the 1930s. I can't remember the year, but it was about several sightings of this, what they called a hairy wild man. So I'm wondering, Daddy would have been a young teenager at that time, that maybe he read, or, people were talking about those stories, and maybe that's where his thing about the wild man came from. And I didn't ask questions. There's, you got questions, ask them before your parents are gone, because I didn't know anything about Daddy's side of the family lineage or anything. And you were taught when I was a child to be seen and not heard, so you didn't break in adult conversations and ask questions. So I didn't. And now I wish I had.
I wish I could teach some of that to my girls. To my children. My children are always talking all the time. No, that's good advice. If you have questions, ask them now, right? That's tough once they're gone.
Yeah.
You can't get that time back, huh?
To be continued.
You've been listening to All Things Unexplained. If you liked this podcast, please do give us a 5-star rating and leave us a review. If you would like to hear more All Things Unexplained, be sure to follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you'd like to support our show, please do visit buymeacoffee.com/unexplained. A special thanks to our producer, director, sound mixer, editor, and the man that wears far too many hats. No, seriously, he has a lot of hats, Dr. Tim Mounts. Without you, we couldn't keep the lights on. Thanks for listening to All Things Unexplained.